There we go. Now it would appear, for the most part, to be working. Great. Sorry, my hotkeys broke. That was a very nice thing for XSplit to do to me. Welcome, once again, to Polar Knight LE. It's my pleasure to bring you this fellow right here. He is in the blue trunks. He is playing Zerg for Team Millenium. He is Gosu User. Versus his opponent. To the south position of Polar Knight. You don't really have a northeast and the southwest position on this map. That's just not how it works. One of the newer maps, to say the least. Very refreshing to see this one. A cold, brisk breeze echoes through the base. He is now playing for Team Mousesports in the red trunks. He is Terran, and he is Lucifron. Well, let's see how this one goes. So, Gosu User is in America right now. As you might be aware, he has been doing a bit of casting for WCS. So, this one is being played on the American server. And I believe everything else is most likely going to be played on Europe, depending on whether Gosu User wins this one. Now, we are seeing a gas down here from Lucifron. Reasonably early, 13 supply. No intention to go gasless here. I'm interested to know what he's going to do with it. Hellions seem to be the flavor of the month at the moment. Awful lot of that stuff going on. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if we saw any of that. In the meantime, Gosu User with the expand. No pool down yet. There we go. 15 pool. So, reasonably conservative. Nothing out of the ordinary there. No gas taken either. It's going to be the Reaper opening, as you might imagine. And no, you do not need gas for that anymore. For those of you who've just tuned in after never watching a Heart of the Swarm match, you do not need that tech lab, which makes things an awful lot easier. You will need to gather a little bit of gas in order to toss the Reaper out, but thankfully, you can do it a lot quicker these days. And no 25 gas required for the tech lab, so pretty easy. We'll see what he decides to do after that. Whether or not he goes straight into factory on 100, or whether or not he decides to expand. There's a second Reaper coming out, which is interesting. If he was going directly into the expansion, you wouldn't usually see a second Reaper. But he's going to expand behind that one there. So he could have got it slightly earlier. But decides to get another Reaper out. Now, generally speaking, these Reapers don't actually kill much, as you're probably about to see. It depends on whether Gosu User decides to micro away. There we go, he saves one. See how many more he can save. Ling's now out, so Reaper taking a little bit of damage. And so far, the Reaper hasn't really managed to do anything, which is kind of to be expected. They're not supposed to really do anything outside of harassment and scouting. The thing is, there's a second Reaper following this up, so, which is a little more unusual. You know, the standard approach would be to do one and then expand, not to delay your expansion slightly and build a second Reaper. If you're building a second Reaper, then you want to do damage with it. And honestly, the Zerg player might not necessarily expect that. There are queens out, though, so it will be a little bit more difficult to make anything out of this. And Gosu User is actually adding on 2 more queens as well. So, I'm not entirely convinced this is going to do anything, but what it is shielding is actually a 3cc opening here. He's built this factory as well, so he's going to go into either Hellions or Winter Mines very shortly. But this harassment is a little bit annoying. 2 Reapers are more difficult to kill. He doesn't really want to build more Lings right now, and he certainly doesn't have speed. He's only got 3 Lings out on the map. It's not enough to stop these Reapers. So I wonder if Lucifron will continue to try and apply that pressure. Hellions backing that one up, so the Reaper Hellion build. If he keeps these 2 alive and is able to bring Hellions into reinforce, that's a fairly powerful attack, but he didn't. Let's just say. He lost a Reaper there for no real gain, and now he only has 1, so not entirely convinced we're going to be seeing a huge amount of success here from this attack. In the meantime, Gosu User going up for a lair. Another extractor being added on here. We're not seeing 2 more. There's a 3rd, and there's a 4th. Okay. So we may very well see Spire play. That's certainly a possibility. Along comes Lucifron with a couple of Hellions and a Reaper, which is really not going to do anything whatsoever. Even killing Creep Tumors isn't really an option when there are already 4 Queens out on the map. He can very easily defend that, and he can spread Creep at a good pace. However, Hellions are continuing, in fact, to be produced. So we are currently sitting on 4 Hellions and a Reaper. Going to be on 6 very soon. Stimpack is the follow-up. Let's see whether or not we get a Spire out of this. It's very, very likely, with all this gas being mined. We're not seeing any evolution chambers going down, which generally leads us to believe that it will be a Spire play. But, however, there is an Evo Chamber and a Baneling there. So, maybe not. We'll see. Trying to think what other possibilities are in play. There we go. There's a Spire coming down. Okay, Widowmine follow-up here. Just playing more defensively now as Luciferon. He does have that third command center. He's using it to very quickly saturate both his bases. The last thing he wants to do is expand again very quickly. Polar Knight, you do have this expansion at the back here. The problem is it's got rocks on it, which makes it a little bit more difficult to deal with. Luciferon just poking at the front of the base here, not really able to do much. Ghost User with a decent amount of information here. So we'll see where he decides to actually expand. Expanding towards the front, towards the Zerg is a possibility, certainly. Spire still on the way, and we're seeing pretty classic style here from Ghost User, honestly. Zerg melee attack. Centrifugal hooks, so we are looking for Ling, Baneling, Muta. Very old-school Wings of Liberty-esque style. Works pretty well. I mean, Luciferon is certainly not playing a particularly modern style. He only got 2 Widowmines out and then decided to stop the production. So he's got those in a defensive posture. He's still trying to do something here. He may be able to catch a bunch of Lings off guard. That would be quite nice. He's now heading in the direction... Ooh, he's going to scout this. Will he decide to engage? A Ghost User immediately peels off to actually engage those Hellions. And Luciferon turns around thinking, ooh, that's a juicy big stack of Lings we could maybe get there. Gets a couple of good shots, especially off creep. This is going to look decent for him, but he gets surrounded as well. So far the trade's not amazing. Now they are. Of course, he's going to be able to destroy those rocks. It would have been great if Luciferon had been able to stop that from happening. That would delay the Zerg expansion significantly. Just bear in mind, of course, Ghost User's been playing off 2 bases right now. Right now he's playing 2-base Spire against a 3cc Terran who is about to expand. Starport comes down for Luciferon very, very late. Just to be expected. A bit of a supply block there from him as well. Quite a large one, in fact. That is... 1, really bad timing, because he's about to be hit by a bunch of Mutalisks, and secondly, very uncharacteristic of Luciferon. That is a good 20-second supply block. I am very surprised by that. Engagement comes in, Luciferon just looking to poke and prod. Ghost User wheels around once again. Mutas have been spotted. Aren't a huge number of them, though. We're only looking at 7 Mutas, but there is a big Baneling follow-up with +1 here. And the key thing, I feel, is that these guys lack medevacs. If Ghost User is able to bait some stims out, then he will be able to wipe these out with Banelings. This will be pretty good, but so far Luciferon hasn't taken the bait. Hellions now spot the Banelings coming in. They do have speed. Luciferon with the spread. Is it enough? Now going straight for the middle line. Good connection comes in. That was a lot of Banelings invested there. It did clean up the army, though. This third base is now going to be absolutely obliterated. Reinforcements come in from the back here. Definitely could have used another Baneling. These Mutalisks are taking so much damage right now. Luciferon's army will get cleaned up, but Ghost User spends a lot to make it happen. However, he is able to throw that orbital command backwards. There it goes. That Widowmine is in a decent spot. Oh, the shot goes off, takes down 1, but the CC is currently saved here by Luciferon. Very nice. Alright, well in the meantime, Ghost User has expanded to a 3rd and a 4th base right now and is adding on more Mutalisks. He did a decent amount of damage with that attack. However, he is still up against a very, very macro-orientated Terran player with 2 fully saturated bases that can easily expand back here again. The question is, can Luciferon actually hold this base this time around? Didn't work out so well last time for him. Ghost User posturing once again. We've got a Reaper just being annoying here. Ghost User kind of ignoring it. The Queen will very easily deal with it. Wouldn't be too worried about that, but the scout has been made. Luciferon setting up a better defensive position this time around. Now he has medevacs on the field, so he does have a little bit more stim available to him. Very important. More Banelings coming in right now. Ghost User's been playing a surprisingly low eco game up to this point. Only on 56 drones right now. He'll be able to expand that number, but he has been playing Ling Baneling Muta on 2 base for the most part, which has done fairly well, but he can't stick to it. He's got to do a little bit better than that. Ooh, Luciferon scouts. Very nice scout here. Sees everything coming in. Is going to be decently prepared. Let's see how good the Widowmine hits are. Oh, 1 is not so great, but those Banelings were absolutely useless. Great spread here by Luciferon. All those Banelings connect with nothing, and suddenly that was a crushing defeat there for Ghost User. That is not good. Income yet more Banelings are not going to get great connections by the looks of it. Gets into the mineral line with them, and doesn't kill much. Luciferon again with the great defense. Yeah, that didn't go so well. Not for Gosu User, not at all. Now might be the time where Gosu User wants to start doing a little bit of harassment, but he doesn't have the mute account really to deal with these numbers of missile turrets. He needs to expand that mute account so that he can do it safely without losing Mutalisks in the process, without those missile turrets slowing him down. He could, of course, power his economy, but he's electing not to do it. He's not built a single extra drone up to this point. These two bases right now are macro hatches and nothing but. They're just getting injected for lava, for mass amounts of Lings and Banelings, and I mean, that will work fairly well. I mean, Lucifron's army can be killed by Lings here, but you do have to bear in mind that Lucifron has a massive upgrade advantage. We're talking 2-0 here versus 2-2 with Medivacs, +3 on the way, and bunkers. Those Lings are not going to do a massive amount. They're going to be gunned down pretty quickly, but the numbers for Gosu User are terrifying. 77 Lings and 20 Banelings. These Mutalisks are kind of wheeling around the side, just looking for an angle of attack here, which they're not really going to find. Lucifron's got good positioning on most of these missile turrets. He could take this one out and hit this mineral line. That might be a good thing to do in combination with hitting the front line here. There are not as many Widow Mines as I would have thought, but there's definitely enough to put his opponent off. Here comes the harass, down goes the missile turret, kills a good few SCVs in the process, and doesn't lose a Mutalisk by the looks of it. I think he lost 1 in the process, so maybe worthwhile, maybe not. Workers killed 28 so far by Gosu User. So he is keeping his opponent back, and now finally he's powered his economy. 70, now 69 drones. So he's able to saturate, or at least for the most part, mine from these bases. And you know what I've seen from Lucifron? Like, Lucifron has not attacked at all. Now is his first foray across the map. Aside from those Hellions earlier that didn't really do much. He's got this smaller drop coming in. Only 6 Marines. Looking to do some damage here. There is no static defense down at the 3rd base. There is no static defense down at the 4th base. Admittedly, it's next to about 5,000 Lings, so that should work pretty well for him. And those Lings are easily going to get picked up. There we go. Trying to draw his opponent's army out of position. Trying to get some positional information as well as to where his opponent's army actually is. Lucifron now drops down. It's out of sight. The Zerg player stims right in. It's going to do a decent amount of damage here, I feel. Especially with 2-2. I mean, these guys are going to go down very fast here. Very, very powerful. A little bit of a skirmish going down the middle. And, oh, fortunately for Gosu User, Ling's popping at just the right time before this entire mineral line would get destroyed. Little push across the map here by Lucifron. The aim to clean off a little bit of this creep that's got already over halfway across the map right now. And we need to see these mutas now to start shutting these drops down, honestly. Oh, a nice play by Lucifron. Gosu User with a fairly slow response time there. Losing yet more drones, taking them down to 65. In come the mutas. Now they should be able to clean this drop off without too much of a problem. Boosters are not enabled, so the drop goes down immediately, but another drop comes in to the top here. Lings coming in, good position there for Lucifron to fight that. The endless stream of Lings comes in across the map here. And in the meantime, Lucifron's been able to comfortably mine off 3 bases. He's fairly low on SCVs, like he's at 55, which is probably lower than you would want at this stage, but he does have that mule support, so it doesn't matter too much. And now is able to support a forward position with a large number of Widow Mines. 16 in total now. It's been pushing those out an awful lot. And in comes the engagement. More Lings, more Banelings rolling in here, and these Widow Mines not connecting that well. These Banelings sitting right on top of them. But there's so many Banelings right now. Is that going to be enough to actually make that happen? Baneling connections go off. There's just so many. There's too many. Lucifron is just completely overwhelmed here. Where are the Mutalisks to kill off this? Man, it would have been great to see the Mutas get rid of all of these Medivacs. As it stands, there's a massive pile of Banelings going in, crashing in, taking out 2 bunkers. But he invested so much and didn't do economic damage. Man, if only those Mutas were along with it. But there's a drop down here, which is going to take out the Queen as well. A couple of Banelings managed to get away, but it's difficult to say whether or not that was an efficient attack. It's also difficult to say whether it had to be. Widowmine burrows, kills good 3 or so drones. Wow. Lucifron's drops have actually been devastating. He's killed 46 workers up to this point. He has really caught up in that respect. He has done a lot of damage to the economy of Gosu User, who may not be able to sustain this kind of aggression. You can be inefficient if you have 4 bases and you're mining well. That's fine, especially with Lings and Banelings, but the first engagement was great, yeah? The Widow Mines didn't connect all that well. Lucifron looked like he was on the run there. And then the Banelings just didn't really do the job going towards the 3rd base, and he wasn't able to clean up the Widow Mines. He wasn't able to clean up the Medivacs, which means there's still 9 Widow Mines on the field. And in we go. Lucifron currently sitting on 3-3, heavily upgraded, versus 2-1. Massive advantage here for Lucifron. The Ghost User is in a huge amount of trouble now. This base is most likely going to go down. It's taking a lot of fire here from just a small fire team of Marines. In come more Lings, more Banelings. Ah, bit of a connection, but I don't think that's going to be enough, honestly. That base is dead. It's a fantastic blow there, delivered by Luciferon, and Ghost User in a world of hurt now. Behind in supply for one of the first times in the game. Luciferon getting yet more great engagement. Oh, splitting against the Banelings. Takes a bit of a big hit there. Widowmine didn't really help him out, but there's the GG, ladies and gentlemen. And Luciferon takes the first game in this Best of 9 series right here for Mousesports. Nicely played there by Luciferon. Very impressive. He took a bit of a pounding early on, and I felt that Ling Baneling Mutastyle would have done a lot, but really the Mutalists didn't actually do that much. They weren't able to actually get into mineral lines, and the problem was, since they couldn't actually chase down the enemy, and they couldn't kill Medivacs, frankly, he wasn't able to get a lot done with them. The Lings and Banelings did okay, but not being able to kill off that third base, only being able to delay it, not being able to really economically harass after that point, it made things a bit difficult. And then, of course, the drops coming in from Luciferon towards the end were absolutely fantastic. All right, folks, take a quick break. When we get to the next match, it will be Mousesports versus Team Millenium, with Mousesports leading 1-0 in this Best of 9 series. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are going into the next match right here. Should be a good one, I think. We're going to be seeing some TVP action coming out of these guys right now as we load in. It's going to be on Whirlwind. And currently, Mousesports is leading 1-0. Alright, let's kick it off. Welcome to Whirlwind, ladies and gentlemen, one of the older maps in the map pool, and one that I believe Artosis and Tasteless last night wished would go away. This is Mousesports Luciferon. He is in the red trunks, and he is playing Terran to the southeast, currently leading 1-0 for his team, versus his opponent to the southwest position, formerly of Team Na'vi. Now, of course, on Team Millenium, in the blue trunks, it is Baby Knight. This should be a pretty solid matchup. Baby Knight, considered to be one of the better European Protoss, was for a while considered to be a bit of a foreign hope, honestly. As of yet, hasn't really shown that. He's been solid, but not exceptional. We'll see what he's able to do against Luciferon. I mean, same of Luciferon lately, honestly. Luciferon was known as this big European Terran hope. And lately, he's been dropping off a little bit. His brother, Vortex, has been doing phenomenally well, but Luciferon has not been playing up to his past performance as of late. So we're going to need to see a little bit of an improvement there, hopefully during this match. And it's a solid start against Ghost User, certainly. Although, one should, of course, bear in mind, Ghost User currently in the States and currently casting half the time for WCS. Interesting, we're going to see a CC first here from Luciferon. Well, it is Whirlwind. We can definitely take that risk. In the meantime, Gateway expand into one gas here for Baby Knight. Now, the question is, where do we go from here? I mean, it is Whirlwind, so it can take a while. Interestingly enough, we may have a shorter game than usual, since these guys are expanding towards each other right now. Luciferon expanding towards the Protoss. And, of course, Protoss player will expand upwards, but then his potential third is here. Although he may elect to take it here instead, as a result of being quite close to the Terran player. This is extremely vulnerable to drops. Extremely, as you can see here. If you note the large void of space right here, it's very, very easy to escape. So it's more likely that you'd want to put it back here. And then have your third right here as well. Alright, Luciferon with the scout. It's going to take about 5 years for this SCV to find where it's supposed to be going. He is, of course, going to be scouting his opponent last. And we're seeing the double barracks after command center play here for Luciferon. So, it's pretty gasless for the most part, as you can see. But it generally involves playing a lot of catch-up, getting a decent number of Marines out, especially against a Protoss player that could poke quite early with Stalkers. All sorts of early game aggressive options here. Second gas now goes down for Baby Knight on 22 supply, so definitely a little bit of a classic style here, but with the Mothership Core added in. Now, what I've been seeing lately in an awful lot of Protoss versus Terran is a propensity for Twilight Council, and that can lead into one of two things, either charging Zealots, or, of course, into Blink play, and then there's a possibility of transition to Dark Templar as well. So it's a pretty successful Blink play. Last night, Parting demonstrated some. Admittedly, it didn't initially go so well, but he was able to make it work against Maru. And then, of course, we saw Alicia versus Supernova go for a really nice early, aggressive Blink play with Mothership Core, transition through to Colossus. It's pretty good, and it worked very, very well indeed. Baby Knight with the Scout. He's going to find exactly what he wants to, and he's going to take some damage here. He's actually going to... I am very surprised that he would take so much damage on the Mothership Core, but he is going to be able to get that Time Warp out, but he doesn't get a Marine out of it. Can he stop that bunker going up? He could if he target fired, but he's not doing that, so... I think that was probably not the best execution there from Baby Knight. What I imagine he wanted to do was kill off the Marines and then stop the bunker from being built, but he failed to do that, and he also took a decent amount of damage on the Mothership Core and used an awful lot of energy. So, don't really rate that attack too well. Not a disaster. You know, an early game poke is... It's nice to get it working, but it's certainly not the end of the world if it doesn't. Robo coming down here for Baby Knight now, so... Potentially Colossus heavy, and a third base pretty early here from him. Alright, so he sees the CC first, he sees the Marines, and he's like, you know what? I don't think you're going to do anything. I think you're just going to sit back and macro. Which is interesting, because he never went up the ramp, so he actually has no idea what's in the opponent's base right now. But he is taking a very greedy third base, and he's taking it where I thought he would. And there's a Twilight following this up as well. Okay. Let's see. So we're going to see an Observer first. Doesn't really need an Immortal out just yet. Nothing to really fight with it. We'll see if he decides to go straight into Colossus. What's his gateway count up at right now? It's actually just... I was going to say it's just one. He's adding on 2 more right now. I mean, 1 gate Robo is not unusual. 1 gate Robo, hey, he has a third base in the Twilight Council. That's a little bit more unusual. I'm really interested to see what he does with this. Because he doesn't really have enough gateways to go like mass chargelet style at this point. He's going to go Blink. Alright. Seems like a reasonable option at this stage. Currently, again, it's a Marine exclusive army. No Marauders whatsoever. He does have 1 tech lab. In fact, 2 tech labs. So he will be able to build those. He's just finished up a little bit of research right there. Now he's going to kick into combat shields, and Stim is almost done. I'm going to see some medevacs coming out here immediately, and it will be an Immortal to follow that one up as well. Alright, well, there's nothing wrong with adding 1 or 2 in there. They're certainly good units. And since he's pretty low on gateways right now, he does need the ability to actually spend this money. Especially now that this third base is up and running. He's going to have a ton of cash. He's going to have to spend it pretty efficiently. And right now, he doesn't, I think, have the production facilities to actually do that. He's certainly going to be able to pump out a lot of Stalkers, but it's only from 3 gateways. There's the 4th one going down. Second Immortal to follow this one up as well. And Luciferon is just doing nothing at the moment. He is sitting back and happily macroing and upgrading. He's got his +1 on the way here. Stim is now done. He's got a couple of medevacs out, so it looks like Luciferon will try this initial poke here. Combat Shield will finish by the time he gets there, so this is a decent timing for him. And he's going up against the Baby Knight that doesn't have a lot of units, but Blink probably isn't going to be finished when this hits. In fact, it's very unlikely, unless it gets chrono boosted heavily, which it currently is. There we go. Now it's being chrono boosted. It might finish, but it's looking unlikely at this stage. So we are looking at a very small Baby Knight army, but it does have a lot of sentries in it. So if he is able to force field this off, it should be fine. Where's the Mothership Core? It's a good question. It's over there. All right, so it's in a good spot. And Luciferon smells it. He goes up to scout. Is there a third base? And he sees it. And down goes the photon overcharge, and firepower is coming in here as well. There's not enough Marines, really, to push this, I don't feel. But he thinks there is. Let's see. What are these Zealots doing? Not an awful lot, as it turns out. He needs to get units up there. And there's the Blink looking to try and pick off a medevac here, but it's going to turn around and smash that Stalker. Ooh, force field's not good. Not good at all. 4 overlapping force fields to catch 2 Marines. It does keep the Nexus alive, and there were certainly a lot of sentries there, so it's not the worst thing ever, but he wanted to catch more of that army, and he wasn't able to do it. Now Luciferon with a smaller force, but reinforcements streaming in. He's pulling SCVs already. Wow, that's almost his entire economy that is just pulled off there. As you can see, very little saturation here. He pulled half of his SCVs with this attack. And he wants to do it before there's any area of effect. I mean, there's no storm. Colossus are not done yet, so this could be very, very effective here against Baby Knight. This could be a short one. Force field's much, much better this time around. He's not able to stop the SCVs from getting into the fray, though. If he'd had one more force field, maybe this would have been better. But Lucifer is going to absolutely destroy this army. There are far too many SCVs. Down go the Immortals as well. Looks like this is going to be a pretty short game. Taking fire from the photon overcharge here, but that's not really too much of a problem. The probe's coming off the line here as well. Down goes the natural nexus. Baby Knight trying his best to make Blink Micro work here, but the Marauders with Concussive Shell are making short work of that, especially with a +1. There is very little left army-wise, and this Immortal's certainly not going to finish either. Colossus Den is up, but it's not going to help him. And Lucifer is now free to kill whatever he wants. Powers down 2 gateways, powers down 2 forges. Research isn't done yet. Baby Knight in a huge amount of trouble. Not really able to re-establish. 2 gateways are not going to finish either. These probes just getting gunned down mercilessly. Lucifron does not care. Smashes his way through here. And this is going to be a pretty swift 2-0 here for Mousesports. Lucifron saying, you know what? I still got it. And I don't disagree. That was a pretty well-timed SCV pull, correctly identifying that his opponent didn't actually have the area of effect to properly deal with that. In come the reinforcements from the back. Baby Knight getting smashed to pieces here. Decent Blink Micro, but it's not enough to save him. GG. And Lucifron takes his team up 2-0. Strong attack. We've been seeing a lot of SCV pulling from Terrans, especially on 2 bases lately. It's a good, solid timing. It works very, very well when you know your opponent doesn't have Storm, doesn't have Archons, and doesn't have Colossus, which was exactly the case. Blink Stalker will not help you against that army. Immortals really will not help you too much against that army. I feel maybe the game could have gone a little bit differently with better force fields, but even then, it would have been difficult. Even then. It was not the best place to fight, and letting those SCVs through to get in contact with all of those units without the area of effect to clean them up quickly is just a nightmare. Nicely played there by Lucifron. Very good. Alright, well, Mousesports is currently leading 2-0, and Millenium reeling a little bit. Let's see who they send out next. We'll find out in a few short minutes. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Acer Teamstory Cup, and as I think many of you expected, it is actually going to be 4GG coming out here for Millenium. Definitely not a big surprise. 4GG's win rate against Terran right now is sitting somewhere between 77 and 80% in competitive play. It is very, very high. That is something that Lucifron is going to be struggling with greatly. 4GG is definitely the favorite in this matchup. They will be ready in approximately 3 minutes, and then we will rocket out on Star Station. Alright, here we go, folks. We are about ready to kick it off. Star Station will be the map, as I mentioned earlier, and it's going to be 4GG versus Lucifron here. Man, if Lucifron can beat 4GG, that's pretty much the toughest opponent he's going to come across in Millenium, I feel. He's already doing pretty damn well for himself, so let's see what he can do. Because he's got to go up against this guy, and this guy is a TVT Titan. In the red trunks, playing Terran to the southeast position for Team Millenium, it's 4GG. Versus his opponent, up to the northwest position in the blue trunks, also playing Terran, currently leading for his team 2-0 in this Best of 9 team series. It is Lucifron. Oh me, oh my, 4GG is so good at TVT. That I can tell you for free. He's ridiculously good at this matchup. Very, very dangerous. I would say he's one of the best TVTers in the world right now. There's no real question about that. His versus Protoss is looking pretty good as well. Frankly, the only problem that he really has right now, especially in WCS, where his win rate is fairly shockingly low. I believe it was below 30%. Aces versus Zerg. He is not good against Zerg whatsoever. So, what I would say is if Lucifron loses this, the first thing that Mousesports is probably going to do is throw Vortex right at 4GG. And that's probably the best idea they have. And I think that would work. Get 4GG out of the picture. Of course, a revive could happen towards the end for the ace match, so we could see 4GG out again for the ace match. That's a possibility. Right now, identical builds from both players. So we might just see a Reaper opening from both of them. We didn't see gas before racks for either of these fellows, so... Reaper's fairly... it's pretty common. Seems like it would be a sensible way of doing things. Both these guys spawning to the opposite sides here. Star Station, I believe, now is just cross positions. One of the older maps in the map pool. But still used in Team Series from time to time. I believe it's mostly fallen out of favor in the rotations for most 1v1 competitive tournaments. Alright, what are you doing, Lucifron? Having a look-see, scouting for any kind of cheeky proxy racks or anything like that. Which you will not find. Reaper's coming out for both sides. And a wall-off, of course, for both sides will happen as well. So, we are definitely seeing mirror builds. But now the deviation. 4GG takes a second gas. Very early on. This usually can only mean one thing. And that's that he intends to go for a Cloak Banshee play. Bit more popular now. Cloak costs less. It's 100-100 now instead of 200-200, if I recall correctly. So, Cloak Banshee play would work pretty well. Works very well for players with good control, certainly. The risk is, of course, that this gets scouted. It's a Reaper opening from both. We'll see. 4GG, it looks like they're going to actually pass here. So, 4GG may be able to delay or kill off this Reaper. Alright, Reaper duel. And Lucifron immediately chickens out. This is great for 4GG. This means Lucifron is not going to be able to scout. At least not for a little while. Lucifron looking around and 4GG deliberately intercepting him and keeping that Reaper back. Now, I wonder if Lucifron suspects that there's any nonsense coming behind this. Possibility. Factory goes down here. It may not be. It could be something else. But it is pretty likely to be Cloak Banshee. There's really no reason to grab that gas so early, if not. 4GG with a second Reaper. Lucifron with a second Reaper as well. So right now, Lucifron's forced into a defensive posture with these Reapers and isn't actually able to scout his opponent. He has no idea what his opponent's doing. Here comes Tech Lab. Yep, it will be Cloak Banshee, almost certainly. And this is great for 4GG. It's like, hey, I can kill you SCV and delay you. This is wonderful. And Lucifron manages to get away with it, but he is able to slow that down. Marine with a pretty bad engagement there, gets sniped off quite quickly. However, Reaper on Reaper action right now, and 4GG knows that he will not be able to win that one. Loses one Reaper, and Lucifron finally gets the upper hand. But frankly, that's been going on for long enough. Lucifron, you greedy, greedy man, you. He is going for triple CC against Cloaked Banshee. It might even not be Cloak, but it's very likely to be. There's no reason to gather this much gas without it. Triple CC versus Cloaked Banshee sounds like a potential disaster. That could go really badly for Lucifron. Hellions coming out, not going to help him whatsoever here. Let's see. Lucifron, does he smell it? Will he be able to... I mean, there's already a Banshee on the way here. Can he get a Raven out? Does he even need one? With double scan into triple scan, he might not. He'll need at least one Viking, certainly, to get rid of it. He has no engineering bay, so he's not going to be using missile turrets at all. 4GG gets a couple more Reapers out and says, hey, yeah, I can be annoying here against this Reaper Hellion force. I can hold you back here. And he's done a phenomenal job of it so far. Banshee on the way. Starport about to finish here for Lucifron. What is his first build going to be? Lucifron sitting on a decent amount of gas. He may go Raven. I wonder if he smells this. He's building a Viking. Okay, that's going to help him. Does he follow it up with a Raven, I wonder? Well, this is going to go unscouted. At least until it hits. 4GG actually gets in with 3 Reapers, which is going to be pretty bad. I mean, that's going to take out a decent number of SCVs already. That forces a pull away from the minimal line there. That was a nice move here by 4GG. He is going to lose at least 1 Reaper. 2 Reapers actually going to lose all of them, which apparently he's fine with, and I don't really blame him because... Oh, scan goes down. It sees the Cloak Banshee. Alright, he knows what's coming. But Hellions can't shoot up, so this is not going to help him too much. In comes the Banshee. Cloak's about to finish. That's going to be a lot of dead units pretty quickly. Vikings out. There's the Cloak. Alright. Scan available? Yes, there is. But he's got to be careful with that. Banshees move pretty quickly. They can get out of scan range. There is another scan available here in the main as well. 1 Viking coming out. Raven being trained up as well. There's the scan. 4GG quickly gets out of it. Goes back to the natural. Nice little dodge there. This Banshee already doing a decent amount of damage. It's kind of paying for itself. Not too shabby. Alright. He's getting a lot of kills here, I gotta say. I mean, he's up to 11 workers killed, 12 workers killed. 4GG doesn't even care. He's gonna try and take down one more. 13 workers killed total. There's another Banshee on the field as well. Raven has been built as well. Lucifron now sitting there. Now, what I will say is that Lucifron, of course, is... Oh, he's... I don't know. I mean, he's not heading economy anymore because that second Banshee just cleaned out the natural as well. Out comes the Raven now, so he can't really do much more. He's going to have to move away here, but this triple CC is going to have to work double time to actually catch up. The question is now, can 4GG do much with this? He's done a good amount of damage, but he's now sitting on Marine Tank. He's got a couple of Banshees coming out here as well. Nice pick-off. Still 2 Banshees available here. So 4GG is going to be able to harass any force in the middle of the map here. Lucifron moving his Raven in, but that, of course, slows the overall army down. So you've got to keep up with that Raven, otherwise you have no detection. 4GG now rolling out as well. No stim, no combat shield yet, though. Completely unupgraded. Versus those Hellions, but a couple of tanks will work pretty well here. I say 4GG still in a fantastic spot. Lucifron has not been able to actually leverage that economic advantage he would have got from getting that early CC. He took a lot of damage from it. He took a lot of damage from Reaper Harass as well. Lucifron with a Banshee, a Cloaked Banshee of his own, in fact, which will force scans out of 4GG, which could be painful only on 2 CCs. That's definitely going to delay this army, so that's a nice little play here. Lucifron still looking for an angle, but with 2 tanks and Banshees in the mix, it's not going to do much. And 4GG's decided, you know what, I'm going back home. That's it. That's enough for the time being. So this game is kind of stabilized. Lucifron's getting his own Cloak Banshees out. Scan comes in here. Lucifron looking for an interception. Is not really able to get it. But he certainly can poke into this base. There is no defense right now outside of this missile turret. So he can poke away at supply depots and things like that. And get a little bit of scouting information. Poke away at the engineering bay. That would be pretty annoying. Comes in and immediately is going to see that missile turret. But it's okay. He manages to get an SCV for it. And he's going to get 2, maybe even 1 more. But Marine's now moving in. 4GG still without the stim is going to have a little bit of difficulty catching this. Decent amount of damage, and ooh, Lucifron, nice moves so far, but takes a big hit there. There's the cloak, but there's barely any energy, so that's not going to help him too much. Now he's uncloaked, and Lucifron can get out of here, but ooh, he's playing with fire right now. Very dicey. 4GG looking to defend this engineering bay, make sure that that doesn't get picked off. Pretty nicely done so far. What's the economic situation right now? Well, Lucifron is still actually behind in workers. Of course, he has access to more mules. He has now put this 3rd base down as well. There's a lot of energy there, so he's going to mule that base up. So he'll be playing catch-up pretty quickly. Armory coming down here for 4GG. 2nd engineering bay as well, so he will still continue to play bio, but he's going to play double upgrade style. Ooh, this could be a free tank, but in come the repairs to make sure that doesn't happen. Lucifron not able to pick that off. He's going to get a good couple of Marines, though. There is some scan energy, but you don't want to scan in this position because it's too easy for the Banshee to escape. Banshee comes in again and does yet more damage here. A lot of the SCVs have actually been pulled off the lines. A lot of wasted mining time here. So Lucifron is playing really well right now. He is, however, floating a lot of minerals, and he doesn't have the facilities to actually spend it right now. In comes more Banshee harass. Oh, man. This is going to get pretty bad for the supply block. There's a lot of unfinished supply depots there. 4GG could have picked this one off, actually. It was on 1 HP, but he's not prioritizing that. He's going to try and get out with these Cloak Banshees right now. We do have the 3rd base now mining. That would have been a great harassment point, actually, but it doesn't look like... Did he spot it? No, well, he didn't, so he doesn't know that that's there yet. It's currently undefended from air attacks. 4GG with his own 3rd base here as well. Currently, workers killed. 4GG has done a significantly better job, and as a result does have the larger army. Engagement coming in the center right here. Marine's kind of blocked off in an awkward spot, but it doesn't really matter. There are Banshees in the air and tanks, so those Hellions get quickly killed off. Banshee comes along to stop these barracks from coming up very effectively. No missile turrets, which is not going to help Lucifron too much, but there's the scan and down it goes. There we go. 4GG now with a significant army pushing in. He has the means to break this. He really does. Lucifron's army is not that big, especially with Banshees trying to pick off the tanks. He takes down 1. Banshees will now die, but he took a tank, which is absolutely fine. Now with his superior Marine count, good upgrades on these guys as well. He's now able to smash his way through, and that 3rd base is compromised and is most likely going to die. Oh, it's an SCV massacre right here with those Stim Marines, and the Orbital Command dies as well. Fantastic move here by 4GG. Lucifron in a world of trouble right now. Down goes the reactor, and it's Medivacs versus no Medivacs. There's the GG, and 4GG puts it on the board very, very easily. Made that look pretty simple there. Took a little bit of harassment early on, but frankly, 4GG was in control for at least 90% of that game. Very nicely played. All right, Millenium puts one on the board right now. The question is, who does Mousesports send out? Couple of options. I think, honestly, I would send Lucifron at this point. Admittedly, it does mean you're sending out one of your big dogs pretty early on, which might be something they don't want to do. The question is, who else would they really send at this stage? I wouldn't put another Terran up against 4GG. That's suicidal, so I certainly wouldn't send out Hero Marine. You could send out Hope, maybe, and keep Vortex for later. Of course, Mana and Hazuobs are both very solid, but we are talking about 4GG here, who is pretty good against Protoss, so... yeah, I mean, I expect a Zerg player. We'll see what we get. We'll find out in the next couple of minutes, folks. You are watching ATC. Season 2 is brought to you by Acer and Take TV. We'll be right. Alright, looks like we're going. Alright. Change colors over. Alright, sorry about the delay. Let's make this happen once again. Alright, now we have all the casters. We'll be able to play this one out. So, here we go once again into a Newkirk Precinct, folks. I do expect this to be a pretty good map. Pretty good match, in fact. Let's go. So, now changing his color just to annoy me in the southeast position on Newkirk Precinct. Playing for Team Mousesports. Playing Zerg in the blue trunks, he is Vortex. Versus his opponent to the southwest position. Now in the red trunks, they swapped before the match, which is a little weird, but I'm not going to judge. Playing for Team Millenium. Often the ace for Team Millenium. Playing Terran in the red trunks, it is 4GG. Well, 4GG is having some serious Zerg problems lately. He is losing a lot to Zerg. And that is very problematic. It's not too helpful for him at all. But it's happening. And it sucks, but it's happening. So, he needs to do something about that, certainly. We have seen him attempt cheese against Zerg. That's not the worst idea ever, especially against a player like Vortex. Very macro-orientated Zerg player. That early aggression can certainly put the Zerg back, but when it gets into a late game, it can be pretty bad. And also, what I've noticed is that he seems pretty vulnerable to Zerg all-ins as well. He's lost to Roach Bane probably as many times, if not more, than Ryung has. So, it's pretty grim. We'll see. If he's able to pull it out here against Vortex, that'll be great. Vortex considered, of course, to be one of the best European Zergs right now. So, frankly, we're going to need to see a bit of a different 4GG from what we saw in the recent WCS matches, where he was pretty... honestly, he was crushed by Nurtio. Let's be completely fair to what happened there. He was crushed. Alright. 15cc coming down here for 4GG. Decent map for it. Newkirk Precinct often results in late-game split map scenarios, so it's definitely not too bad. You can expand away from your opponent quite a lot because, well, there's the split down the center of the map. You got an expansion there. You got this one right here, which can be vulnerable for Zerg players, especially against Terran. But then you got this one towards the back and expand up to the top. It's not too bad. 4GG with a gas follow-up and 1 racks instead of the Lucifron style of 2 racks, no gas. So, I'm interested to see what he wants to do with that gas early on. Evidently does not want to stick on Marine only. The question is, what is his strategy? He's going to have access to a lot of gas early because of that CC, but generally speaking, the Terran player doesn't really want that much gas early. They can't necessarily use it. It's very difficult. Vortex being scouted right here. 4GG steals a few minerals. A little bit of larceny going on right here. This drone is the mall security officer. He'll chase for a little while, then he'll get exhausted and go and get a Cinnabon. Okay, now Vortex sitting just on 2 hatcheries, and still no gas, actually. He's going to go double queen here. We'll see how many queens he actually decides to go up to. The fact that he hasn't taken a gas indicates he wants to take a 3rd base pretty quickly. He has scouted to some degree his opponent, but I would expect to see a third base coming down here. 2 more queens coming out. In the meantime, 4GG now just establishing a basic defensive position. There's the factory coming down. What does he want to do? Well, reactor comes in. It might just be reactor Hellion play from this position. The reactor's pretty well timed with this factory, so they should finish around the same time. Reacted Hellion, definitely not a bad idea. Still hasn't taken any more gas, so... Alright, Vortex sitting on a good amount of cash right now, but is not, in fact, indicating that he wants to go for a third base at all. He's actually taking all 4 gas, so I would expect to see Lair coming out from Vortex, and we could see Spire play. Very, very likely, considering that he is grabbing all 4 gas at the same time. He's going to put drones into them immediately as well, so... Yep. That seems likely. And he's sitting on 4 queens right now for defense, which is absolutely fine against what his opponent's got, which is barely anything. 4GG just sitting on that, getting that 3rd CC up as well. Now, we have seen just how dangerous those Mutalisks can be. Especially against a 3cc build where they're able to maraud around and do a lot of damage, but can 4GG actually defend against them? Gas income is very, very high right now for Vortex. It's grabbing his speed here, so we could see... Obviously, Ling Muta, possibly Baneling play coming in here as well. It is something that we saw from Gosu User, but instead we are going to see the 2 Evolution Chambers coming down. Interesting. So perhaps we won't see Spire, but that's still a lot of gas he's sitting on. He can go very heavy upgrades with this. Maybe upgrade heavy Baneling play, possibly. We'll see. Straight into Baneling speed, something along those lines. He can still go Muta, but it's going to be a more neutered number of Muta. Thing is, though, he's just finished his lair. There's the Spire coming down. Still going to take 100 seconds to go, so... In fact, he may have just built those as a wall-off against Hellions, and then he'll go for the upgrades a little later once they start to get the Mutas out. Those are all possibilities right now. There's the Baneling nest, so we now definitely know what we're going to see from him. In the meantime, 4GG adding on reactors for the most part. He is not making use of this factory. However, the Hellions actually managed to get their way into the base. How on earth that happened, I don't know. That should not have happened at all. Yep, more Hellions. This could be horrible. Good few shots coming off here. How did this happen? Man, I want to watch the replay and find out how that happened, because that should not have in a million years happened. There was a solid wall off at the front. 17 workers killed. There's no way they should have got into the base, and there's no way they should have been able to do that. There were 4 queens with a solid wall off. Vortex takes heavy damage. Did he get his Spire scouted? He didn't. That's perhaps the only big thing right now. He didn't scout. There's 2 gas, so Vortex is at least going to be able to play with the element of surprise a little bit, but even then, I think 4GG has probably figured it out. That was devastating. So much damage done with those Hellions. God, I wasn't even looking at that side of the map because I'm like, there's no way those Hellions are getting in. I mean, there shouldn't be. But apparently the wall-off was not complete. The Queens were not able to block it off. Alright, well, 4GG is in a fantastic spot now. He is absolutely set up to deal with Mutas. There's only a small number of them, considering the economic damage that was taken there. There's barely any lava as it is, so he can't do a big Ling follow-up to this. There's 11 Marines out. There are missile turrets in position. There's bunkers going down here as well. Missile turrets in great positions, in fact. All over the place. He is totally ready for this, in my opinion. The only thing is he doesn't have combat shield yet. He does have stim, but he doesn't have combat shields. That's a bit annoying. But Vortex doesn't have enough Mutalisks on the field to even be a threat at this stage. Those Marines will absolutely obliterate that number. So now we're sitting in a position where Vortex has got to go for this heavy upgrade style. He's sitting on a lot of gas. Doesn't really have the minerals to pump out a huge number of units. He's looking to get Baneling speed and +1 on both sides. Has finally managed to establish a third base very, very late. And 4GG is just powering forward. Now we've got an armory coming out for more upgrades. 1-1 just finished. Lined up very, very nicely here. Can go straight into 2-2. He's almost got the gas for it. And 4GG's saying, oh, so for the last 11 minutes, you've done nothing to me. Vortex gets the scout, spots the third base, and says, well, I don't have enough units to make anything work here. 4GG is going to be feeling very pleased with himself. 13 Banelings now being morphed in. He is looking to do that attack on the third. The only blessing, I think, right now is the Widowmine count is very, very low, and there are no tanks. So a Baneling attack could do damage if Vortex is able to draw his opponent out of position. He forces a stim out. Pretty big one. There are plenty of medevacs in position, though. He's not expecting an attack from that angle. He's expecting an attack from the front or the top, not the bottom. So it is possible that damage will be done here. Baneling speed is now complete. Vortex has a huge number of Banelings morphing in. His opponent doesn't know about it. He's not really pre-spread. There's this one Widowmine that might be the hero here. It depends on the angle that these attacks actually come in at. 4GG has got to suspect something. It's a two-angled attack by the looks of it. You're going to see the attack from the top and from the bottom simultaneously. Alright, here it comes. These bunkers are empty right now. And Lings come in from the side as well. Banelings get a good connection. Oh, Vortex, you monster! Good God, what a fantastic connection. The entire mineral line gets wiped out, and suddenly 4GG in a world of trouble. What a fantastic attack. Incredibly well executed. 4GG was completely unprepared for that. Gets caught sandwiched between Banelings from all sides. Massive economic damage is dealt. 22 workers killed. And 4GG will start to stabilize here, but Luciferon and Vortex just put himself right back in the game with that attack. That was phenomenal. Perfect. Perfect execution by Vortex. He's got to be happy with that. And now 4GG, suddenly, from a position of comfort and economic dominance, has been put in a position of panic. Sandwiched and completely destroyed. Incredible. What can I say? I am so impressed with Vortex right now. He's right back in this. After that early slip, where he took a lot of damage and put himself behind, now he's in a great spot. Doesn't have a huge amount of Mutalisks. And this attack may start to get a little bit less effective as he goes in. Unborrowed Widowmine doesn't even get to detonate. What is 4GG doing right now? What he's doing is taking a huge amount of damage, but he is able to hold this. Oh, man. Now he's in a decent spot. After unborrowing that Widowmine and not being able to detonate against Banelings, he suddenly gets a really great engagement, good split, and an overcommitment here from Vortex, in my opinion, results in 4GG now being able to aggressively push across the map. He has a good supply advantage right now. Very, very solid. 38 Marines. He is on creep, but they do have 2-2, though. The upgrades, really great for him. In come the Banelings. The split is pretty good. The Widowmine doesn't really do anything. Loses that fourth base. Can 4GG continue this push across creep? It's going to be difficult. There's a huge amount of creep that's already over halfway across the map. It's not going to recede too quickly either. He's using a lot of scans to get rid of this. I don't think 4GG can continue here. I really don't. I think it's too dangerous. He's got to pull back. He didn't even manage to make the creep recede too well. I mean, he's got this bit, but this bit is still absolutely fine. So Vortex is still in a good spot, even though he engaged poorly the second time around. He's definitely behind in supply. 4GG's macro is pumping out heavily. A lot of Widowmines playing the very standard Heartless One Biomine style. Drilling Claws coming in, 3-3 as well. Vehicle and ship plating coming in. A lot of medevacs, good Marine count. So right now, the aggression is coming in once again. 4GG might have enough to make this work this time. The 2-2 is almost done here for Vortex. It's not quite, but it's good enough. Oh! Bang! Down goes the Vanguard. Very nicely done. Vortex again with the Baneling connections from hell right now. But he still has a supply deficit. This third base is not going to be held. Decent splitting this time around. Off goes the Widowmines. Actually hits the Mutalist this time around. Doesn't want to commit to that, and he knows it. Comes back around. The Banelings do get hits, but not as efficient as he needs them to be right now. 4GG's macro is in full effect. 3 bases on right now. More Lings coming in. The Mutalists are going to take yet more hits. They're going to be killed off as well. There's the GG. That was back and forth. Wow, I really thought that Vortex could have made that happen after that fantastic engagement at the third base, but his second engagement was inefficient, and 4GG was able to suddenly gain that tempo advantage and immediately push forward, and there was really no answer there from his opponent. Great upgrades from 4GG, and a solid counter push wins him the game. Alright, we're evened up 2 for 2, folks, and Vortex is out of there. That leaves you with very limited possibilities there. You could send Hope in. That's a possibility. And you can maybe go for a big all-in. Or, if you can't do that, you've really got to send a Protoss player at him, that's a dangerous proposition here for Mousesports. They were expecting Vortex to be able to take him out, and 4GG able to execute that very well. Alright. Well, we will go into the next map very shortly, folks. I want to see what Mousesports is going to send up against 4GG right now. If Vortex can't beat them, this is going to be tough for them. We will find out after the break. Oh man, that track's so good. That's so very good. But I'm sorry, guys. We're going to have to stop it because we have the next matchup. And it will be the man that many consider to be the ace of Mousesports for the longest time. And arguably still is. Yes, indeed. They're bringing out Mana. He's in the red trunks. He is playing Protoss to the northeast of Yunsu versus his opponent to the southwest position in the blue trunks. For Team Millenium, it's 4GG who overcomes the Zerg impressively, and that actually puts Mousesports in a horrible spot, because really, Vortex had to kill 4GG. The only other Zerg Mousesports even has is Hope, who I would say is a worse player, certainly not as experienced and not as accomplished. That doesn't mean he's bad, I'm just saying that Vortex is better. And now we've got to see Protoss against 4GG, and this is not a matchup that 4GG is bad at. He is very accomplished in this matchup. I'd still say TVT is his strength, but his Terran versus Protoss is really good. So Mana is going to be hard-pressed. Now, a long time ago, Mana was considered to be some of the best PvT in the world, honestly. This was a long time ago, though. I remember casting a match when Jinro was easily the best foreigner, and Mana handily defeated him. Very effectively. But I would say it's not necessarily the case anymore. He's still good at the matchup, but he's definitely not as dominant as he once was. But he is still Mana, and Mana is just well-rounded in every way. He very rarely makes mistakes. He plays solid games, so we'll see where this goes. Now, Yunsu is a little bit of a weird one, and honestly, from what I actually believe this as well, because I've seen it happen, especially against Protoss. It's kind of an awkward map for Protoss to go up against Terran, mainly because you've got these really awkward expansions which have cliff faces. This one in particular is a nightmare to defend, simply because you can get attacks from the low ground. If you notice how close the minerals actually are to the cliff face here, it's very easy to do a lot of damage to your opponent from the lower part of the cliff if you're Terran, because of course you have medevacs you can see up there. There is also potential siege tank play there as well. Elevation play is very effective around this base. But here's the thing. As far as I know, this is a map that was picked by Mana, so he definitely has a strategy for it. He knows what he's doing. Gateway expand here for Mana, very standard. Nothing out of the ordinary here, just one assimilator. Scout comes in, 4GG spots it immediately. CC after the barracks here. So it was a gasless barracks expand. No Reapers, obviously, because you don't have any gas for them. It's not a map I think that a lot of people are all that experienced on yet, so it's definitely one of the more interesting maps in the map pool. The expansion layout and the way that they're set up is a little unusual. Again, some players really don't like it, but we'll see where they go from this particular position. We've got another CC coming in. Greediest of greed here from 4GG. So greedy. No gas, one barracks, triple CC. He thinks, hey, Mana's not going to attack me. You're probably right. I mean, Mana is known as a very passive player, very macro-orientated, mid to late game kind of player. He is not the kind of guy that will apply a large amount of early aggression. That's just not his thing. So it's not the worst idea ever here from 4GG. Still potentially vulnerable, though. I would like to know what Mana's going to do, especially if he gets scouting information. He knows the CC is down. Does he know there's another one? No. And he has no... Well, he does have a way to find it, but it's going to be a little bit difficult for him. It would involve the Mothership Core roaming across the map here. And Mana, again, is a very defensive player, so he's unlikely to have that happen. But he might. He very well might. 3 more barracks to follow this one up. Obviously, I mean, you're sitting on triple CC, you will absolutely do that. Still no gas. I mean, this is actually crazy. Gasless Terran style on 3cc at 31 supply and rising. Still no sign of gas coming out from these guys. Wow. And in the meantime, of course, Mana sitting on 2 gas at his home base. Pylon going towards the back. I wonder what he wants to put there. He's got Robo coming out here, so I expect Observer first from Mana, and that's exactly what happens. I mean, you could not be more Mana than this build, right? Finally, the gas comes down at 34 supply there. 4GG playing a Zerg-like style here. Very cool. A lot of barracks coming out. His income is going to skyrocket pretty shortly. And, I mean, that puts him in a solid spot. But Mana is going for a big Colossus play with more gates coming behind this. He may just go for 2-base Colossus at this point, and that, I think, is a really good idea. Instead of expanding, and this is an annoying expansion to take, but he would more likely take this expansion instead over here. But it is so far away from the main base, difficult to reinforce. A 2-base Colossus play could work really well here. Scan goes down, spots the 4 gas. That gives him some information. What else does he know about? Well, he doesn't know about the rowboat, and he doesn't know about that. And that's hidden back pretty far. So a scan's probably going to land here. It may miss the robo bay. I like this. I like this from Mana. I really do. There's a good amount of gateways being ramped up here. Production is on its way. Colossus on the way here. So this will be a 2-base Colossus play. And I think that could work. 4GG is very slow in his tech. This is a massively greedy build here. Stim only just started. A factory only just started. There's a Colossus halfway done, and there's no factory on the field. He's not even close to having Vikings. So this could work. I wonder how many Colossus he will go with here. Will he go with 2? Is he even going to get that range upgrade? Yes, he starts the range upgrade. So it's going to be maybe a 2 to 3 Colossus attack with gateway units. I think that could do so well. Mana denies the scout. Very, very nicely here. Starport finally goes down. Widowmine being produced here. There's the scan to pick off the observer. Nice little move. So we'll probably see a reactor come out here after this Widowmine. The timing might be slightly off. More racks coming down behind this as well. I mean, a marine-heavy attack Marines will not work against this. In theory, that shouldn't work. Unless Mana makes a positional error. 3 more gates coming down. Colossus is about to complete, so he's sitting on 2. By the time this attack hits, he is going to have extended thermal land, so it looks like it will be a 2 Colossus push. With more gateways. Does he have a forward pylon? He does. In a good position. Yeah, he's moving out. He's ready to go. And rightfully so. 4GG is going to have a really hard time holding this. He doesn't have the means. He has no Vikings. None. He has a large amount of Marines. Combat shield is nowhere near complete. This is the worst thing. He's got stim, but no combat shield. And not enough medivacs. This attack should destroy 4GG completely. Unless 4GG somehow is able to pull off a miraculous defense. There's no bunkers! He is clearly expecting a macro style from his opponent, and he's absolutely wrong. Oh no, he's splitting his army as well. This is even worse. He's not going to see it. Oh, now he drops away. Oh, this is going to hurt. I can't see 4GG holding this at all. No way. Force field split the army in half perfectly. That's half the army dead already. There's no answer to this Colossus at all. There are no Vikings on the field. 2 Marauders come out. That's pretty much all he's got here. Time warp on the ramp. This is devastating. Mana executes this absolutely perfectly. More reinforcements coming behind this. The Colossus are just sitting there saying, hi, this is fine. Combat shield is not finishing. Oh, it's actually on another one, so he might get this finished. Oh, great force field. Blocks all of those SCVs in. Marines come around the back. 4GG going for a nice little execution here to try and get rid of this, but the position's just no good. GG. Mana obliterates him. Very nicely played out. I did wonder why Mana would pick Yonsu, and there's the reason. He expected greed from his opponent. Bit of a Terran-favored map. Goes for the 2-base Colossus all in. Devastates 4GG, who had no idea that was coming. Now that puts Mousesports in a great spot. 4GG is at least out till the ace match, so Mana, I think, is the measure of any other player on Millenium right now. He could easily take them on and put up a good fight. Will it be enough? Can he take it the ace match on his own? Possibility. We'll find out after this break, folks. Don't go anywhere.